work. In order to do work, you must be able to cause another thing to move. In order to for one thing to cause another thing to move, it must interact with that other thing. A non-existent thing would not be able to interact in a way that would cause that other thing to move, making it a requirement for it to be physical and real.
Yeah, you're just
Incoherent.
equivocating.
How was that incoherent?
Coherent. I want
Coherent. Thank you.
Boy's rejection.
I misheard you.
Yeah, I don't know why you would reject that, Monkey Boy.
And again, it's not an unending statement. I'm not just like gish galloping. I'm simply explaining one concept.
Well,
Yeah, so
Monkey
like
Boy's
interaction just doesn't mean something exists.
There's more than one type of interaction. The interaction I am discussing is the interaction that is specifically required for energy to have the capacity to do movement.
Same one I'm talking about.
Yes, that one does require it to be real, because if it's not real, it would not have the capacity to cause something else to move.
Exactly the equivocation for like the millionth time.
It's not an equivocation, it's a claim.
You look, I don't know why you're not tracking. It's really bad. Like you take it to be part of the meaning.
I am tracking. I'm not equivocating.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
simply stating that the position
boy, so
that you are putting forward
and here he goes again.
Is incorrect.
But yeah, I'll explain how you're not tracking. You take it to be part of the meaning that for something to interact to exist.
No, I said it's a meaning for something to have energy that it must interact with something else. That's
so
what
let's
I said,
just get clear.
Right?
Is it a part of the meaning of interact that the things exist?
That's going to be further down the road. It depends on which form of interaction we are discussing. I cannot say that every form and every meaning of the word interaction requires for the things to exist.
The same that's genius.
Again, if you interrupt me, you don't get the brunt of what I'm saying. If we are talking,
do you take it?
If we are talking specifically about the term energy, because I'm still talking, we are talking about a physical thing having the capacity to do work on another physical thing. We are talking about one physical thing causing another physical thing to move. That requires a specific type of interaction. That type of interaction would necessitate those things be real.
Yeah, so there's the equivocation.
No, it is not an equivocation. It is a claim.
Yeah, you take it to be part of the meaning to interact as the cause.
No, I didn't. I said this form of interaction requires the things to be real, not just interaction in a general term.
Yeah, I'm not saying in a general term. You're just not tracking. The same context.
I am tracking. Could you tell me how a non-real thing can interact and cause something else to move?
By interacting.
That's just circular. How can interaction happen? Interaction. He did this before too. I asked him a question on how something to occur, and he just restated the question as the answer.
Let's try to meet in the middle somewhere, right?
In this definition of interaction, which is the capacity to do work,
just the fact of
how is a non-real thing capable of causing a non-real or real thing to move?
About causing.
Hold on.
Yes, we are. The capacity to do work is causal.
Matt.
No, hold on. The physical language there about work doesn't use causal language. Right? That's highly controversial.
I hate the semantics games. We are talking about causal forces here when we're discussing energy and we're discussing interaction as it pertains to energy and the physical world around us. We are literally talking about the capacity to do work, otherwise known as the ability to cause something else to move. This is quite literally the same exact things. If you don't know, we're not. It's the capacity to do work. The capacity to do work is to cause something to move.
You're not using energy as used in science.
Yes, I am.
You just said you're not.
No, I didn't.
I just said
the way I am
and
using
the way it's
energy,
used in science, and you said verbatim, no, we're not.
Then I must have misheard what you said,
You probably
and that's
did.
fine. But I'm still at the
Do it all the
position
time.
where I am making the claim for an object to, when by object I just mean a physical thing, to cause another object to move, again, to have the capacity to do work on a physical thing, those things must be real in order to interact in the capacity of having the capacity to do work, in the context of having the capacity to do work. This is a requirement, and I'm not going to accept you to say that it's not unless you can show me how it is not.
To say it's a requirement means you're equivocating.
No, I am not. I am making a claim. Do you have a counter to it?
Do you know what it means to equivocate?
Holy fuck, do you not ever actually engage?
You just answered.
You haven't engaged with my position once. You've all you've done is make accusations against me.
I'll explain how you're equivocating. First, let's get clear. Do you understand what it means to equivocate?
Go ahead, teach me, master.
The question, yes or no?
Teach me.
Yes or no? Do you know what it means to equivocate?
Do you not know what it means to equivocate? Because it seems like you don't want to give the definition.
Yes, he can't answer. Just yes or no. Do you know?
So
I do, but I don't think you
do. Low-key getting smoked.
Yes or no? Do you know
what equivocation means? Do you?
Okay, what does it mean to equivocate?
I asked you a question. I don't believe you know what it means to equivocate, so I'm asking you.
That's fine. Suppose
because you've been accusing me of equivocation, so I need to know what you mean by equivocation.
No, I'm asking you. Do you know? Look, I'm
you
just
made
asking.
You made a claim that I am equivocating. Tell me what you mean by that claim.
I am. I'll let you know in a second. I just want to be clear.
Now. I'm not going to do your work for you.
I'm asking you. What do you?
Why are you a coward to your own argumentation?
Can you just calm down? Do you know what I'm asking? Why are you being a coward
to your own argumentation?
I don't even know what that means.
What does equivocate mean when you use it?
What do you think I mean by equivocate?
I don't know. That's the reason I'm asking you, because I don't know your mental state.
So when you say that
I don't believe you know what the word equivocation means to begin with, so you simply use the word equivocation because you thought it sounded smart, and now you don't know what you mean by that word. That's the position I am holding right now. I would like you to prove me wrong.
The meta. I'm asking you.
I know you don't care about the meta because you're incapable of engaging in it.
I mean, can we control this guy?
Again, you have not once actually engaged with my conversation, so
sure.
I'm going to move on from that. Do I need to teach you what equivocation means?
When you say that you're not,
do I need to educate you on what equivocation means?
No. When you say that you're
then what does equivocation mean?
We're not going to dodge. When you say you're not
dodging,
equivocating,
you've been incapable of answering me.
What do you mean?
You claim me of equivocating. What does it mean?
When you say you're not equivocating, what do you think you're saying?
When you said I am equivocating, what do you think that means? Do you see how this is not productive?
Yeah, because you're dodging.
And so are you.
No, MonkeyBoy, answer the question.
Because I'm asking the question.
You are the one who's educated in philosophy. I am a high school dropout. Can you tell me what equivocation means?
Is it all right if I get mod AR?
Is it all right if I get mod AR?
I'm not gonna abuse crazy. But
I'm maxed out.
I'm only not modding.
I can mod this
video game, but
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to meet you, Cody.
But yeah,
can you not bring that guy up with the cards?
What the fuck does that
guy's
Would you like me to give you the beginning of the definition? Would that show you that I know what I'm talking about, and then you could finish the definition to be able to show that you know what you're talking about?
I'm just asking, when you say you're not equivocating, what do you mean by equivocate there?
Yeah, I don't think you know what equivocation means, so I just gave you. So I just gave you a central point. Hey, Kobe, hold on. I am giving him a position where we can both not dodge and both show we know what we're talking about. And by that, I can give an early portion of the definition and he can finish it to show he knows what he is talking about as well. So we know neither of us is dodging, because I personally don't think he knows what equivocation is.
When you say you're not equivocating, what do you think? What do you mean by equivocation?
When you say I'm equivocating, what do you think you're saying? Do you see how dumb that conversation is? Yes, I asked you the question first.
No, you didn't.
Oh, I quite literally did.
No, you
I'm
didn't.
being dishonest. I have given you the option. I've given you a like an actual option to work here, a compromise, and you've yet
What
to
do you
actually
think?
try to do anything.
Look, you're saying you don't understand what I'm saying when you say.
Okay, so
you're
what I'm going to
equivocating.
do is I'm going to give you
Hold on.
a like
Hold on.
5 words at
You've
the beginning
got
of it,
enough
and
time
you
to
can tell
ramble.
me the rest of it. How about that?
Can we control him?
I am
Look,
controlled.
Spurg,
chill.
calm down,
I'm gonna have to
Spurg.
start muting.
What is
Yeah,
wrong
I
with
can
this? This
mod,
guy's
but
incredible.
just
I
Jesus,
don't know how
we could
you're
talk
calling me
forever.
We're gonna do it this
incredible
way.
when
Just
you've
stop,
interrupted
just
me the
stop,
whole
stop.
time.
Matthew,
we're gonna do it
stop.
this way.
Matthew, stop.
We're gonna do it this way,
Stop
guys.
what?
Guys, we're gonna do it this way.
Stop
We're gonna do it this way.
talking.
We're gonna do it this way.
Do you not like getting cooked?
Someone mute up. Hold on. Someone mute up.
You're not cooking me.
Hold on. So this
I've
is
been
what I'm
cooking
gonna
you
do.
the whole time.
Hold on, listen.
What's up,
guys.
AR? What's up?
Okay. What we're gonna do is one person talks, another person mutes up, and then after that person mutes up, that means they're finished talking, then you unmute. So only unmute when you see the
I'm
mute
asking.
button.
Yeah, so I'm asking what you mean by equivocate.
Okay, I guess.
Matthew.
Well, I was told not. I was told not to speak until you muted up. Oh, okay. So I know you asked me what it means to equivocate, and I have the definition for equivocation, and I'm perfectly fine giving the definition for equivocation. But at this current point in time, I don't believe you know the definition of equivocation. And since you accused me of using equivocation, I would like to know what you think equivocation is. So I am presenting you with a compromise to this position to show that neither of us is simply being like intellectually dishonest and trying to dodge this. I'm going to give you like the beginning of the definition, and I would like you to complete the definition to show you know what it actually means, right? This is going to be a position where a person starts using ambiguous language for a purpose. Could you tell me what that purpose is?
We're dodging. I'll try again. What do you mean by equivocation?
Okay, so at this point, I am convinced he doesn't know what equivocation is, and I'm going to just mute up until he actually gives the rest of the definition.
Look, like, come on, like, I'm not even riding meat. I'm not even riding meat here. We all know MonkeyBoy knows what like equivocation means, and just reading the definition you have is just gonna fix the problem. So just do that.
No, look,
why isn't
I'm
he
saying,
doing the same thing then?
Look, because he's really stupid and he can't understand the.
Oh, see, there's the ad hom. There's the ad hom. Right?
That's not what an ad hom is. Funny.
Because you are claiming that
look, I'll explain.
Hold on. Both of you mute up. Okay, no, hold on. I specifically said one person mutes up, then the other person unmutes, vice versa. I don't know why both of you unmuted.
I'm cool with that as long as he doesn't start like interrupting and like insulting
and
me.
you guys are
like,
both still.
I'm going to interrupt an insult, right? AR?
I know, but hold on. I understand. But wait. We just said. Remember, one of you mute up and the other person talks, vice versa. Who wants to go first? Okay.
I'm going to explain
can I get clarification
that question
for something real quick, AR?
He wants to dodge.
Okay. No, I don't want to dodge. I've shown that I'm not dodging already. Can I get clarification on something?
Not dodging would be you answering.
I'm talking to AR, bud.
All right.
Am I supposed to sit and stay on mute even if he's like purposely sitting there insulting me?
Yeah. Let's just not do the meta. All right. Like, okay. So
no, I want to know because you're putting down.
No. I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. Like nobody does meta. Nobody do the meta. Nobody talks about.
So I'm gonna just flat out say, I was accused of equivocation.
I agree what you're saying, right? Like,
and now I want to. No.
Let's just talk about the argument.
This is my position, and I'm going to mute, and he can answer.
Okay, right. But we're trying to right now we're trying to figure out what equivocation. I don't know. I know what it means, but like I'm saying, like right now is if I
had a phone call. Sorry, hold on. I was accused of equivocation. I want the person who accused me of equivocation to tell me what they mean.
Okay.
But wait, AR, I'm a object to that only because that's not being genuine to how the dialectic happened.
It is.
No.
It quite literally is. Every time I've asked him to do so.
Wait. MonkeyBoy did make the charge. I'm agreeing with that. MonkeyBoy charged you of equivocation. You then said, I am not equivocating. And then MonkeyBoy said, what do you think equivocation means?
That he has no clue what I mean. Add that in.
Okay. All right. Well, equivocation is a fallacy. where you use a word differently than it was used in the argument at another point in time by the interlocutor or yourself.
There's much more to it.
If I'm incorrect by my definition, somebody correct me.
There's more to it than that. That's the reason I said that I would give the beginning of the definition and I would like him to finish it. I was really trying to make a compromise there, but
I'm trying to continue the argument forward. I'm trying to continue the conversation forward, Zach.
I want to understand what's the claim.
Huh?
Fine, I'll give the I'll just give the definition. And forever from this day on, I will be the person who taught MonkeyBoy what equivocation.
Wait, Jim. What were you saying, Jim?
Is that something we can agree on?
Wait, Jim, what were you saying? Hold on, wait, guys. I want to hear what Jim was saying.
I said when you gave that definition, I think you were just equivocating.
So can we make the agreement that I will be forever the person who taught MonkeyBoy what equivocation actually means? Is that the position we're going to hold from now on?
I'm just going to accept that. Like everyone here knows I've used equivocate for ages.
I'm coming to the conclusion that you've used it incorrectly for ages.
Way more
I was speaking. I waited till you were done.
I wasn't done, so pipe down. Yeah,
you literally stopped
way
talking.
More philosophy than you.
I don't believe you.
I didn't meet up. I obviously know way more philosophy than you, and everyone here too.
And I don't believe you.
Agrees. Yeah, well, I'm not asking you a question, so I don't know where you're responding. I don't believe you.
You're making a claim, and I don't believe you.
I'm making the claim everyone but you here believes that I know.
I don't care.
More philosophy than you.
Why would I care?
And that's fairly obvious. To accuse me, I don't know what equivocation is. Just makes zero
you're dishonest
sense.
In a lot.
I don't know where you're over talking me, right? I thought you're supposed
because
to
you're getting back into meta.
You guys both again, right? When both of you have unmuted, now both of you have to get muted up because I keep telling you guys, one of you mute up, the other person talks, vice versa. Why are we doing this again? Right? That's the only way we can have
clearly him.
Yeah. So MonkeyBoy will finish. Matthew, you go once he mutes up. Go ahead. Let's go.
Yeah. So the issue is that he denied that I'm that he's equivocating, but he also conceded he doesn't know what I'm saying. So it doesn't make any sense to say that he's denying my claim. So I'm trying to understand what he's saying when he says he's not equivocating.
Well, actually, what I said was I know what equivocation is, and I don't think you know what equivocation is, and I think you're using it incorrectly. Therefore, I do not know what you mean by equivocation and need you to inform me what you mean by equivocation. If you want me to educate you on what equivocation is, you can let me know, but I will forever be the person that says you were ignorant of equivocation until I informed you.
Yeah, so just realize I asked him verbatim, do you know what I mean by equivocation? And he says, no, I'm convinced you don't know what it means. Then I asked him. Now I'm asking him what he means by equivocation when he denied that he's equivocating, not understanding what I meant.
Yeah, your play on words there is not helpful at all. So again, when you asked me if I know what you mean by equivocation, I told you I don't have access to your brain states, your mind state. So no, I don't know what you mean and would require you tell me, right? That's just an obvious position, right? I can't know what a person is thinking. So I ask. And again, if you want me to teach you what equivocation means, I can. I gave you the beginning of the definition. I can continue the rest of the definition if you'd like. But at that point in time, I'm the one who taught you what equivocation was and will forever say so. If you would like to accept the compromise that I gave you, you can just tell me what the second half of the definition is, right? The second half of the definition is the purpose behind the use of the ambiguous language. You can just tell me what that is, and then we both understand that we're talking about the same thing and know what we're talking about, right? Pretty simple. So as you are the one who accused me of using equivocation, could you just get off your high horse and tell me what you mean?
Yeah, so I'm just going to ask again, what do you mean by equivocation?
Then I'm just going to ask again, what are you talking about by equivocation? Because you're the one who brought it up. You brought forward the concept of equivocation as a way of discussing what I was saying. So I need you to define the terms you brought into the conversation.
You made the claim you're not equivocating. What did you mean by equivocation there?
You made the claim that I was equivocating. What did you mean by using the word equivocating there? This is I can just repeat the exact same questions you are, and we're going to come to the same point. That's the reason I progressed by giving you a compromise. Actually, I've actually given you two compromises. I've given one where I give you partial definition and you finish it, and I've given you a compromise where I give you complete definition, and then forever will say that I educated you on what equivocation means. Which one would you care to take? If you don't take any of them, why are we holding a conversation?
Yeah, so if you're just going to dodge, I mean, I guess we can end it.
You're just going to dodge. I guess I will just continue speaking because I'm not gonna end it, right? I'm going to restate my claim that in order for a physical thing to have the property of energy, it must have the capacity to do work, meaning it must have the ability to interact with another physical thing and cause it to move. Therefore, it must be real in order to do so. Period. That's my claim. That's my position.
Be clear, he's still equivocating for anyone who doesn't understand.
How can I equivocate with my own argument? Could you let me know? I'm actually using very specific language so that I don't equivocate.
Equivocating.
I don't think you know what equivocation is, so I'm going to go ahead and define it now just to forever be able to say that you are an idiot that doesn't know what equivocation is, even though you've been educated in philosophy. To equivocate would be to use ambiguous language in order to try to conceal or try to influence the discussion in a way that is not intended, right? It's a way of being deceitful. It's avoiding a commitment to oneself or one's position. I am using specific language in my argumentation, in my position, in the thing that I am saying is true, in order to be able to say, hey, this is my claim. That is what equivocation means. It's quite literally the definition. I could read it word for word if you'd like. Yeah, the use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth or to avoid committing oneself. Yeah.
You're still equivocating.
I'm not.
You said that like a million times.
And you said I have like a million times. I'm responding to you.
Explained how.
So, what do you mean when you say I'm equivocating?
Now you ask questions. I'm presuming you're asking to answer, but you don't
I've
answer.
asked that question more than
not,
a dozen times now.
Yeah, but it's just strange you want me to answer questions, but when I ask you don't, so I'm not going to do that.
Why are you not going to answer a question when asked to you, but you expect others to answer questions when you ask them? I've literally answered every question that you've ever asked me now.
Really false.
What question has he asked me that I haven't answered?
You know what equivocation is?
And I said, I do know what equivocation is. I gave an accurate definition for equivocation.
Is this guy trolling?
Well, you looked it up.
I literally asked you a million times, and then instead what you did was you wanted to pigeonhole me into answering what I meant. But the reason I was asking is because you made the claim after you made the claim after the fact. You made the claim after the fact. You don't know what I mean
give the
by
wrong
equivocation.
definition.
You made the claim after the fact. You don't know what I mean by equivocation. That I'm not equivocating, right? So I was asking you what you meant by equivocation, and instead you kept trying to have me answer that question. It's only now that you answer after I said I disengaged.
Did not ask that question until after I asked you what you meant by equivocation. You never asked that
Oh.
question until after I asked you.
It's lying.
I would just say you're lying here.
Dude, you've been
You're
gaslighting.
seriously gaslighting me. And the mod's muting when I'm speaking. Everybody else is muted, dude. Why are you muting me? Like, seriously. I'm not interrupting anybody because everybody else is muted.
Be clear, the definition of work used in the sciences doesn't commit you to saying anything is in a causal relation, nor anything exists.
Yeah, we're talking about the capacity to do work, right? That's what energy is. The capacity to work would necessitate to actually do the work, because capacity doesn't mean you're doing work. But in order to actually have the capacity to do work, work must be able to happen. For work to happen, interaction is required. If you cannot interact, you cannot have the capacity to do work. If you are not real, you do not have the ability to interact. Therefore, you do not hold the capacity to do work.
Yeah, it doesn't follow that you don't, if you're not real, that you can't interact.
Really, show me how you can interact if you're not real. I asked you this before. You just ignored it.
Explain how that's a confused question.
You didn't.
Everyone here can tell you that.
You didn't. You said it was a confused question. You didn't explain anything.
I said in the same way, I can say, how can you be blonde if you're a bachelor, right?
That doesn't answer my question.
That does.
No, it doesn't.
And in fact, you kind of interrupted.
If you're using an analogy, I'm not understanding the analogy. I would like you to use actual verbiage that discusses the position, not just some absurd analogy that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
I don't know what makes the analogy absurd.
Well, I find it to be absurd. If I'm incorrect and other people understand it, that still does not mean that the analogy is capable of explaining to me what it means.
Can I jump in here? Can I jump in here so that I could make maybe let me say one thing, right? Like Matt, if you were to attack somebody's position and they were to say that God exists, right? And you were to tell them God can't exist because God doesn't contain energy, right? Well, obviously, the person who's saying that God exists is not using that terminology in the sense that they need to have energy in order for them to exist. So you can't attack their point of view by saying such a thing. I think that's what MonkeyBoy's trying to say here.
That's not what I've said since the very beginning. That's not what I've said. That's not my argument at all. I understand that this argument is that you don't need to you don't need to have energy to exist, or you don't need to exist to have energy, whatever you want to say on that position. I am working from a different position to argue against that, right? I am making an argument against it, why I don't think this makes cogent sense, why I don't think this is a coherent way of thinking. Because when we're discussing energy, we are quite literally talking about the capacity to do work, which is the ability to cause movement in something else. But right? It doesn't mean that it is causing movement in something else.
Matt, that's
the capacity.
But it is the capacity to do work. That's quite literally the definition I'm using.
Energy is to do work.
No, because we can talk about potential energy, which is the capacity to do work.
Yeah, but that's just whatever.
No, that's specifying, right? Okay, so energy is the capacity to do work, not actually enacting work. But to enact work, you would need to interact. To have the capacity to do work means you would need to have the capacity to interact. In order for somebody to have the capacity to interact, they must be real. Otherwise, no real interaction is occurring.
Yeah, but you again, right? Like when we're
for
talking
everyone,
about,
to be clear, because people in the chat are talking about the whatever. This guy is dumb enough that he thinks that potential energy is a state of energy. It's the
Are you going to
potential of
say that
having energy.
are you going to say
The
that
potential
potential
energy
energy
something
is not a
has.
form of energy?
Oh,
Really? Okay.
potential
So
energy, right? It's the
anybody in the
energy.
chat,
It's
please just
the energy
realize he called me
something
stupid because I said that
potentially
potential
has.
energy exists. Do with that what you will. If
What
you
I
agree
even
with
said
him, cool.
either.
If you disagree with him, cool.
Said either.
Did I say that I'm talking about the definition of energy being the capacity to do work and use potential energy as an example of a form of energy that is the capacity to do work? Is that the position that I gave? Or are you equivocating, saying that potential energy is not having an actual energy state, which is to use a different language and a different verbiage in order to come to a misleading conclusion, right? Is that equivocation? Amazing.
People talk with this guy.
Can you
The dumbest atheist I've
actually
ever
go?
heard.
Can you say anything against my argument, or all you're going to do is talk about me? I did multiple times.
It's atheist I've ever heard.
Again, are you going to talk about me, or are you going to talk about the argument? Okay. So I'm sticking to the argument. My argument is that in order for something to have the capacity to do work, it must be real.
The equivocation.
I'm not equivocating anything. I am presenting a position that I've already defined all my terms with. I can't equivocate if I've given you
Equivocation
my
is
definitions. I'm not being ambiguous. I'm not using misleading information. I'm not trying to come to a different conclusion because I'm using differing definitions. No, I'm specifically giving you the definitions of what I am saying and telling you why I hold this position. Could you actually address the point instead of just talking about me?
made the point that you're equivocating already.
Illustrated that I'm not. I'm not equivocating on equivocating some world. I've literally given like two
Ironically, too.
different definitions that agree with each other for what equivocation is, both on just equivocation alone as well as in the equivocation fallacy in philosophy. They agree with one another, either using ambiguous or differing definitions, which would be ambiguous, to come to a different conclusion or to mislead in coming to a different conclusion. Both are correct.
Isn't it funny when he denies he's equivocating about equivocating and then like nails it in with the next sentence?
And tell me what equivocating is. Tell me how I'm wrong.
I'm not saying you're wrong about anything.
You're saying I am equivocating about equivocating. What do you mean by equivocating so I can understand how the definition I am using is not going to define the term you're using? Because again, I don't know your mental state. If you're going to accuse me of equivocating, but you're not going to use the definition of equivocating that I have given you, you now know what I mean by equivocating. And you just stating that I'm equivocating without telling me what you mean would be you equivocating, wouldn't it? Am I wrong? I
Isn't even listening.
don't think you've listened to 90% of the conversation because you haven't been able to track any of it.
You're not.
Have.
I think we lost. I think we
Are you
lost.
are you cooked enough, or do I need to put a leash on you too?
What do you think you cooked me on?
This entire discussion has been about me providing argumentation, me defining verbiage, me telling you what I mean, me explaining the position, me correcting mistakes you've made, me pulling you back from pivots when you run away from verbiage and try to use a different methodology or a different variation of wording to change the topic. me telling you what equivocation is, as well as telling you how you're equivocating, and then your response to me is, you're equivocating, and then I'm not listening. I'd say not only you cooked, but you're fried. Your brain just isn't interacting anymore. You haven't given a single definition for any term you've used. I can't equivocate my own definition, some worlds. So kudos to him. He's not gonna put his neck out and get the leash snapped on his back of his neck. But if you want to
You've
continue the
already embarrassed
conversation, you're
yourself.
actually going to need to make a point or define a
Really bad in
term
this conversation.
or make an argument.
Stupid. He doesn't recognize that he took it to be essential to the meaning that he took it to be a constitutive of the meaning that something exists in order for it to interact. And then says
again,
it's not equivocation.
So you're equivocating
when
now. Is that
then
what
he
I
says
said?
he's not equivocating when
is that the
philosophers and
definition?
scientists don't mean that. There
Is
is
that
no
the position I
metaphysical
gave?
commitment.
Is
There's
that
no
the position I
metaphysical
gave?
commitment.
Is
There's no
that
metaphysical
actually talking about my
Why is
argument,
he over
or are
talking?
you
Can we muzzle this
using
guy?
a different?
Yeah, there's no metaphysical commitment in using that language, right? And philosophers also talk about this all the time. When people use, well, let me finish my point real quick.
I know, but like again, right? Like,
Are
again,
you equivocating?
Well, now he's just over talking.
and then we'll restart. We'll reset. Reset. Okay. All right. Monkey Boy was talking. All right, Matt, just stay muted until he mutes.
Dude,
I'm saying like he was the one making a point.
I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to you right now.
So when
Are you going
physicalists
to
use
honestly
language,
tell me?
they don't make any ontological
Wait,
commitments.
Zach, hold on, wait. Let me just hear what Matt
Are you
has
going
to
to honestly
say.
tell me that he is not equivocating everything I fucking said right now? Changing the definitions of the terms I've used, changing the argument,
I have no idea if we're talking
and to
about,
come to a different conclusion.
I have no idea if we're talking about the debate or if we're debating about the meta debate at this point. Let's just try to.
I have done nothing but debate.
No, I know, but then we started debating about debating. Now it's meta debating, and then
No, dude, I've only debated my position. Only.
You guys are debating about debating, bro. Like we're really doing this.
Well, I'm not doing the meta, to be clear.
You're not doing the meta, dude. You lie through your teeth.
God, do not meta the meta. Fucking hell.
We are literally meta the metaing. We're meta the metaing. Let's just get to the
my argument stays the same. I have only
let's
been
get to
asking
the
him.
object debate.
Yes.
Let's get to the
The only questions I have asked him so far are on his definitions.
Look, all I know is Monkey Boy was talking there, and then you interrupted.
I've never once said anything about him as a person. I've only asked him to define the terms he's using, and he still hasn't done so. So
Well, bro,
I define them.
He was literally about to, and you interrupted him.
And he's saying I'm still equivocating.
Matthew, let him
I'm on topic. I am quite literally talking about the argument that I've given.
Sign up.
Can you actually discuss the argument I've given or not?
I already explained how you're equivocating.
Literally have not explained how I'm equivocating. I don't even know what you mean when you use the word, because apparently the definition that I am giving isn't in line with the definition you're giving. So I don't know what you're saying. Either tell me what you mean or explain it in a better way.
Unable to track like more than 3 times doesn't mean I haven't explained.
That's meta. Please tell me what you mean by equivocate.
Yeah, I just mean using a different sense of the word.
No, some word, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about, some world. Dude, if you cannot get across what you mean by the word you're using, I don't know how you expect me to continue. I want to talk about the actual topic, about the actual position where I don't think it is coherent to have a position to say a physical thing does not exist, but still maintains the property of having the capacity to do work. That is my argument. Can you tell me?
showed up.
Can you tell me how this doesn't line up?
Like Bloody Mary, he spoke equivocation into existence.
I'm not the one accusing of equivocation. I am asking you to engage.
The one making the accusation, you are the one equivocating.
Then you said I am the one speaking equivocate into existence. I'm not the one saying equivocate. So again, all I want to know is, do you have an argument against the position that I put forth? I've defined my words specifically. I'm not misleading to a conclusion. I'm defining my own words. I'm not using a different meaning. Yes, I read that definition verbatim already.
Why some world said you're equivocating about equivocating.
Again, I am asking you, if I'm making the claim, the argument, the position that a physical thing that does not exist does not have the capacity to interact with anything else in order to have the capacity to do work. That is what I am saying. Could you tell me what about that is incorrect?
Again, I had you sign off multiple times on it. You take it to be a part of the meaning of what it would. You take it to be a part of the meaning that to do work, the things have to exist.
Holy sh! Okay, so again, equivocating, right? When you use a different definition to come to a misleading conclusion.
Wait,
What
but real
about
quick,
the argument
can you
I just gave was not coherent? It has nothing to do with whether
charge?
it's a requirement of something to do interaction, right? I'm talking about only the position of holding energy. Only the position of holding energy. I am not talking about any other property, only the property of energy, meaning to do work, have the capacity to do work, right? That's the only property I'm discussing. I'm not discussing the property of being real and any other properties that might be included with that. I'm not talking about the properties of not being real and anything that might be associated with that. I am only talking about this one property of energy in which something has the capacity to do work. Okay. If a thing is physical and is not real, I don't know how it could have the capacity to do work if it doesn't have the capacity to interact with anything else, meaning that it is not real and can't interact with anything. To be real, you would need to be able to, or to interact, you would need to be real. I'm not saying to be real, you must be able to interact. I'm saying to interact, you must be real.
Yeah, that's the equivocation again.
How am I equivocating my own definition? How can I equivocate my own position?
Yeah, you said that. You said the idealist is contradicting themselves, right? By
I said I feel as if the idealist is contradicting themselves because, and now I'm asking you to give me something that goes against it. Show me this is not the case. Make a counter argument.
To interact, they don't mean that things have to exist.
How? How can you interact if you don't exist?
Right, I understand that question. I mean, look,
okay.
like if someone
asks, don't need to exist in order to interact, that means you cannot exist and interact. My question is, how does a thing that doesn't exist interact with anything?
Well, hold on. Maybe tell me this answer, because this would be a prime parity case that would help this become fruitful. You take it to be a legitimate answer when asked, how can someone be blonde if they're a bachelor, right? If I just say that analyzing the meaning of the terms, those two are jointly compatible. Would that be fine in the case of physical and not existing?
I don't think the position of non-existence is compatible with the concept of interaction. So no, unless you can give me an argument that they are and educate me on how they are,
just the meaning
I
of the
don't
word
know how we
interaction.
can get to the position that a thing that doesn't exist has the ability to interact with something else, thus having the capacity to do work.
And existing is just not a part of the meaning of interaction.
You keep saying that without defending that. Again,
defending
yes, you're making a claim.
You want an argument that's what I mean?
Defend the claim.
Wait, to be clear, you want the argument, that's what I mean by the words.
So I've given you the definition of the words that I am using. I am using specific words and defining what those words mean.
Me to render
if you are using a different definition, then you are using a different definition of the words in my argument in order to come to a misleading conclusion, and that is equivocating. So again, I want to know how something that doesn't exist has the ability to interact with something else, showing the capacity to do work.
Because an idealist isn't using those semantics. That would have been like a very prevalent philosophical objection.
In a way that holds an argument that makes it make sense. Otherwise, all you're doing is using a different definition and telling me no without anything to back it up.
Get clear. What's the proposition you're asking for an argument for?
I don't understand how a world can both not exist and have energy.
I'm not asking for a psychological analysis. I'm asking, what is the proposition you're asking me to render an argument for?
That something not real has the capacity to do work.
Yeah, so just analyzing the meaning of the words, existing is not a constitutive of what's meant for interaction by the lights of people in philosophy, such that you're equivocating in such that it's possible something interacts and doesn't exist.
You can say it's possible. I'm asking you to show it is possible, to defend the position that it's possible. I already know you're going to repeat and say that it's possible for something that doesn't exist to have the capacity to do work. I said, show me how it's possible for something that doesn't exist to be able to do work.
Since it's not a constitutive of the meaning that something that interacts exists, it's compatible with something interacting that did not exist.
Quite literally in the definition I gave.
Yeah, but that's the equivocation.
No, I'm making the argument.
I don't know how you're
I can't equivocate my own fucking...
Like, this is really bad. Like, I don't understand how anyone, like, thinks he's, like, doing well. This is this is so bad. It's actually pathetic. He keeps saying, no, that's not possible. Then he equivocates again. Then I tell him that the idealist isn't using the semantics.
I thought we were going to not do the meta shit.
Because you stepped away.
Yeah, I got a phone call. Could we not do the meta shit and talk behind people's backs?
No, I don't agree to that.
All right, you can be a child. That's fine. I don't give a crap. Right? So I have been attempting for a very long time now to be as calm, collected, analytical, talking in good faith the entire time. You have not once answered a single question directly that I've asked you. I don't believe you have any actual intent in having a coherent conversation or answering questions or attempting to defend the position you've given. You've just said the position does exist when my entire concept here is arguing, why does this make sense? Why do you think this is a coherent claim to make? Why do you think a non-existent thing has the capacity to do work? I am asking questions and stating, I don't see how this is not contradictory. I don't understand why you could think that any of these things can both be true simultaneously, the non-existence and doing work. And you have never once engaged in that position. Not a single time.
But it's confused to ask for an argument when it follows from the meaning of the words.
Again, do you want to actually have a discussion about what's being said, or do you just want to stick in the meta?
I'm not doing meta. I'm responding that what you have some demand in the dialectic, which is confused, which is for me to render an argument when I gave you an analysis of how it follows from the meaning of the words. That it's
and I don't think it does. I don't understand how you can say it does. It doesn't definitionally. Definitionally speaking, it doesn't. If you were just going to change the definitions, which I've presented because you have not presented a single definition the entire time, how am I the one that's equivocating when you're using differing definitions?
By the lights of philosophers. And
then explain it, right?
Yes.
Or are you that up your own ass that you're incapable of having a conversation with somebody?
So no. Take the same meaning and just divorce the ontological language there. Then you got the concept.
Give me a definition and support it.
He's saying that
if I just define logic as irrational, does that then mean logic is irrational?
No, Matt. He's saying that there's no contradiction entailed by the definition of something to exist or not to exist, for it to then necessitate some sort of energy state, right?
No, that's not. I'll try this one more time.
What I'm saying,
non-existence is contrary to interaction.
Yeah, but
do you get that?
He's saying it's possible analytically. You're talking.
And I'm saying it's not, and unless he can tell me how it is, I don't know why you would ever hold that position.
Matt, he's talking analytically. So, like for example, right? It's to say it's logically possible for the universe to exist without God, right? Because there's no contradiction entailed by the universe existing and God not existing. Vice versa, you could also say that God can exist without a universe as well, right?
Yes, but when I'm talking about interaction, there is a contradiction entailed in non-existence having the capacity for interaction.
Okay. Well, how are you defining
a contradiction?
How are you defining existence?
Do we really want to get into defining existence?
Yeah, how do you define?
This is a dichotomy. Either it doesn't exist or it does exist, right?
That's
it is real or is it not real? I would simply say to exist is to be real. To have substance, to take up space if you want. I don't care what you want to say. Okay. But if we're just going to get into the semantics of existence,
when you're defining it that way, then you're eliminating conversation from a theist, because a theist doesn't take it that they mean what you mean by existence.
No, we have to be able to hold to the context of what's being discussed.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you is that
we're talking about the existence of a physical thing. To be physical, you must take up space.
Yes, but again, right? But to be physical it's not entailed in the word, in the definition of existence.
Okay, so here, context. Listen to context here, all right? We are talking about a phrase that was put forth at the beginning of the discussion where I said, I don't understand how you can say the phrase, the world... So I'm thinking Earth, right? I'm thinking a planet exists and is not real, but has energy. So in context, we're talking about a physical object. So something that takes up space is not real, meaning it doesn't take up space.
Well,
and is still capable of interacting, which means to make another thing that occupies space change positions in space.
Do you agree that not all people, not everybody that you're gonna run across is gonna use that definition of existence? They're not gonna
with this context. They should use that context with this. They should use that definition with this context.
No,
We are talking about. We are literally talking about a physical entity that occupies space.
Then you guys
Why
would be
wouldn't we
speaking
use
past
a
each other.
definition about occupying space?
They wouldn't agree with that definition because they don't think that God occupies space. Like, let's say you're talking to a theist.
I'm not talking about God. I've never been talking about God.
I'm
Not
trying
once
to give
have
you
I
an
brought
example.
up God.
The
I
way
talked about the phrase
how
the
physical
world,
is defined.
the world being physical and not existing, but still having energy. I said that doesn't make sense to me.
I
I'm not talking
understand.
about God. I never have been.
But I know, but if you were to if you're going to debate someone who has he's gonna throw out
How is he going to throw away the definition of physical existence when he's using the term physical in his context?
because they're not going to say, "Hey, look, I believe that God exists." And you're by your definition of God existing, you're basically saying that
I'm
they're
not talking
saying that
about
God is physical, but that's not how they.
I never once talked about God. This wasn't about God.
Okay.
This was about this was about the phrase that I didn't get that sounded contradictory to me. Please stop. You are pivoting away from what's being discussed.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to give an example
from every position now. I really don't want to be gaslit from you two, man.
No, I'm trying to tell you how a person wouldn't use that word how you're using it, right? Like when
we're not talking about that. We're talking about the physical earth.
No, we're talking about something that exists. Like the whole.
That's so dumb.
The whole idea.
No, we're not. We're talking about the earth both being physical and non-existing because that was the phrase that was used. That was the claim that was made.
Matthew,
that you could have
being
the
physical
planet we are on,
bro. That's the
not exist and still have energy.
Existence doesn't reduce to physicalism.
I'm not
not
arguing for base physicalism. I am arguing that if you are going to say that the earth is physical and that the earth doesn't exist, that the earth could still have energy, that would be contradictory.
Yeah, you example,
nobody listened to my argument at all.
I've been hearing what you're saying. That's why
I'm asking him to give me a definition of existence of a physical thing that doesn't match that definition.
Could I chime in?
Okay, but sure.
So I guess I have a delay, but Matthew, I will say I am interested in your point of view, but I'm still confused. I noticed the main thing is that we have a problem here, emotional versus the logical, because
this isn't emotional.
What do you mean?
My position of me being a little loud isn't emotional. It's simply. You can call it passionate if you want, but I'm just trying to be heard.
Matthew, can I try to explain this to you, but as to why or like how you were equivocating, or I think at least based on the context.
Speaking calm does not mean you're not emotional. Speaking loudly does not mean
you're not.
You're right. That's not at all what I'm trying to say.
I want to ask a question to Matt, though. Matt, what do you take it a theist means when they say, for example, God exists? Do you think that they mean that God is physical?
I wasn't talking about theism.
No. I want you to understand the definition of existence here and how it's being used in any context. Okay?
So you're telling me that everybody else I've been talking to has been equivocating because they're talking about something completely fucking different than I am. I brought up a question. I brought up a point. I brought up a position. I defined my position.
I understand what you're saying.
It has nothing to do with theism at all.
But we have to.
It has to do with the physical earth.
We have to go broader, though. We have to go broader so that we could.
No, I don't, because that's literally the position I'm talking about.
No, but we have to go broader because we have to. When we have a conversation with somebody who believes, for example, God exists, they're not going to adopt your definition of existence because that means that in your worldview, that means that When they say God
I'm using
exists, you don't
physical
think it-
existence.
I know, but
not
but
just
in your definition-
base existence.
I
Right?
agree.
I can say that ideas exist, right? I could say that ideas exist and they are an emergent property of physical, so I can call them physical. Fine, sure, whatever. But we can say that like non-existent things or non-physical things exist. We can talk about some sort of ontology that holds
Is there a
to a deity that
contradiction
doesn't
entailed by
exist.
that?
But that's the problem. That would be equivocating
No,
because
but
I'm not
Matt,
talking about that.
Matt,
I'm
Matt,
talking about the physical earth.
do you agree that it's, for example, logically possible for something to exist and not be physical? Let's just start there.
Logically possible, sure. Do I have
Yeah,
any
so that
evidence
means-
of it? No. But again,
Hold on, hold on.
no,
Logically
no,
possible,
that's so far off topic. That's
Wait,
not
no,
what
no,
I'm discussing.
Not off topic. Listen, right?
I am discussing physical existence,
Oh my
not
god.
non-physical existence.
All right, Matt, come on, let him talk. All right, whatever. What AR? What are you gonna say?
That's fine. He's talking about physical existence. But what I'm saying is like just the word existence, right? Existence in and of itself doesn't have the baggage of being physical. Do you agree?
Existence.
Yeah.
You can have some. It's a lot. You can have the logical statement that you can have something that exists that is not physical. I'm fine with that. A physicalist wouldn't agree with that, but an idealist would. But again, I have never once been talking about that. I have only been talking about the position of the physical earth, right? Because he was the statement he made was that an idealist could hold to the physical earth not existing but still holding energy, right? That's what he was saying. And I said, I don't think that's possible.
Okay, right. So when he's saying an idealist doesn't think that the physical world doesn't exist, right? Then that throws away this idea that the earth is even physical, right?
Yes, but then giving a non-physical thing a physical property would be contradictory to saying it's a non-physical thing.
Okay, but
to hold physical properties is to be a physical thing.
But you're assuming that it's physical in your worldview.
No, I am not assuming anything. I am saying that he is giving it a physical property. Energy is a physical property. The capacity to do work is a physical property.
Yeah, but he doesn't
work
think...
means movement. Movement is within space.
Yeah,
it's
so
a physical property.
So so exactly, movement is fine, right? Because that's gonna be still coherent to his worldview. Because if
not the cause of movement. To cause movement is a physical property.
Yeah, but that's
to interact with the physical and cause physical movement is a physical property.
Do you believe that idealists can't hold to some sort of movement?
Not a physical movement. No, not a physical movement. No.
That's what's in question, is it not?
That's what's in question. Yeah.
That's the entire point that I was making.
No, I see.
That's the entire position I was giving. I don't know how you can hold to the position that an idealist can say a physical thing doesn't actually exist.
Because you're already assuming,
and then is an idealistic position, but still holds physical properties.
You're begging the question.
No, I am not. I'm asking a question.
No, you're begging the question.
And then I make the argument that to have physical properties is to be physical.
They don't assume that, they don't think that those are physical properties. An idealist
energy is a physical property.
Baby.
That's not what the idealists hold to.
No, the definition. That's the reason I asked the definition he was using of energy at the very beginning.